The Power of Andor, Leadership and Lies. What does it take to win a war? Power. Star Wars revolves around a desperate struggle to gain and maintain power. But power comes in many forms and has different uses. Today we'll discuss the use of power in Andor. As you know, the Empire is obsessed with power. They strive to have the largest army occupying the most systems possible. Massive Star Destroyers control and intimidate travel between planets. Swarms upon swarms of TIE fighters are ready to deploy at a moment's notice. It's no secret, the Empire has achieved an incredible amount of military power, which is why the rebels had to use other types of power to defeat them. Legitimate and coercive power can only get you so far.
Propaganda will only get you so far.
This is because once you strip away everything worthwhile from people, they have nothing left to lose. Killing a man who only knows suffering is a reward, with the only greater gift being vengeance. I'm going to break down the different types of power, how they work, and the characters that use them best. Then, you can decide for yourself which types of power you should pursue to accomplish your goals, or maybe goals for your galaxy. Power structures. There are two main categories of power, formal and informal, official and unofficial. As you can probably guess, the Empire and its figures employ mostly formal power. After all, they are the government, and what's more official than the government? Conversely, rebels use more informal power, as informal power relies less on a structure in place and more upon individuals acting apart from the system. Let's start with the formal powers. These are legitimate power, reward power, coercive power, and information power. Legitimate power is authority granted within the system. For example, your boss has legitimate power over you due to the chain of command at your workplace. If you're self-employed, the government has legitimate power over you to collect taxes. In Star Wars, Emperor Sheev Palpatine has and uses the most legitimate power. Though I don't recognize him as the legitimate leader of the galaxy, he was initially elected lawfully. Later, he proclaimed himself Supreme Leader, which the Senate gleefully accepted.
So this is how liberty dies. With thunderous applause.
Palpatine is mentioned several times in Andor, yet we never see him, because we don't need to. Really, I think that's the point. The Emperor wields so much power that his orders alone create sweeping changes across the galaxy. The citizens generally will do whatever Palpatine says simply because of his status and title.
I didn't do anything. Hey!
Take it up with the Emperor.
I think you get the idea, so let's move on to reward power. No trick, it's exactly how it sounds. Reward power is the ability to give someone something that they want. This is the carrot of the age-old carrot and stick adage. This can be as simple as offering someone a paycheck to do work. If you want that money, you'll do what they tell you to do. Reward power is so effective that people will often ignore the consequences of the work they're doing, leading to a banality of evil. For instance, people may participate in unethical work like Death Star construction, Lockheed Martin logistics, or designing AI for Palantir. People may not feel like they're doing anything wrong because they're not pulling the trigger, but they still took a paycheck washed in blood. The machine does not function without its operators in place. Speaking of banality and evil, Partagaz demonstrates reward power perfectly. Major Partagaz led the ISB board, using his ability to provide promotions and additional resources to spur the team into action. Despite being fascist scum, he was an effective leader, often extracting unconventional ideas from the ISB supervisors and squashing petty disputes. Deidre's desire for his approval drove her to lengths other agents wouldn't dream of. Although Partagaz had a tremendous amount of formal power, he almost never used it to threaten or punish anyone, until himself at the very end. Partagaz is the exception for Imperial officers. Most of them loved ripping things away from subordinates, civilians, and of course, the rebels. This is coercive power, the favorite of the Empire. Killing, torture, and genocide all fit within the realm of coercive power. You might be questioning, how can coercive power be formal if it includes immoral acts? That's the key though, isn't it? Governments make their immoral acts legal before they commit them, or in some cases, pass laws retroactively. The German Nazi government made the genocide of the Holocaust legal before carrying it out. The American government passed the Indian Removal Act, which paved the way for the Trail of Tears 8 years later, a horrible act of ethnic cleansing. Legalizing an immoral action allows its perpetrators to dismiss the ethics of their role. This is where you hear, "I was just doing my job," or "I was just following orders." As said earlier, plenty of Imperial officers employed coercion, but Director Krennic does it with style. The principle is simple: do what I want or face severe consequences. Krennic wiped out a holy city for attacking his cargo ships. Mind you, he was stealing the crystals from their temple.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Krennic sent Dedra to prison for her failure with Axis, or as we know him, Luthen. He also used Galen Erso's wife and child as hostages to force Galen to engineer the Death Star. For a coercive power wielder, the less morals you have, the more powerful you are. Krennic cares only for power, with no regard to morality, so he's extremely effective with his coercion. Last but not least on the informal side is information power. This is achieved by holding a position with access to information, and then being able to use that information to one's advantage. Think of the Allies during World War II with radar capabilities. The knowledge of enemy aircraft's positions was incredibly important to defeating them. That's information power. In Andor, Dedra Meero has access to vast swaths of Imperial data, which she uses to figure out connections between different incidents. Technically, she wasn't supposed to have access to some of the information, which crosses into informal territory, but more on that later. It was Dedra's position that allowed her so much access, which is what makes this formal power. Information is Dedra's strong suit, but she also employs other methods too. She uses coercive power several times, including the torture of civilians to extract intelligence, as well as threatening demotion or punitive action upon subordinates who question her orders. Funny enough, in Season 2 at Gorman, an officer pulls rank on Dedra, using his legitimate power to control her behavior.
But let's not confuse the chain of command. I'm the trigger supervisor, you're the finger.
Even a peon like Cyril was able to use coercive action when he was a mid-level manager at the Corpo Security Agency.
You'd have to filter the entire night.
Well, it's too much for you, let me know. I'm sure somebody wants the chair.
Fascists really love coercion and the appearance of legitimacy. It makes them feel strong, despite how terrified they are inside.
How confident you are.
We're done here.
Confident and terrified.
At last, let's get to the good guys. Informal power is just the opposite of formal. A system does not dictate a person's power under the informal branch, but rather a person's merit, charisma, and effort elevates them. With few exceptions, this means that people with a high-level informal power earned it, whereas nepotism, corruption, and failing upwards can place a person quite high in formal power structures. The types of informal power are referent power, expert power, connection power, and information power.
Desert power.
Although it may apply, referent power does not specifically refer to church reverence, but rather a person who is revered by others. To confuse you further, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had referent power. He was beloved by many for his ability to speak and motivate the masses, standing side by side in harm's way against oppressors. His ability to give people hope influenced millions.
Where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
King used his power to engage in nonviolent civil disobedience against the American government. This was a fight for civil rights and equality, which many people believed in already, but needed to be organized. Running parallel in the fight for freedom and justice is Mon Mothma, who sought justice for the victims of the Gorman genocide, as well as her advocacy for species that the Empire viewed as lesser to humans. Mon Mothma had built up her reputation for years, working towards charitable causes and helping others. Even her adversaries respected her, which meant they were willing to hear her out even if they disagreed. Her final speech to the Senate before going into exile proved her advocacy of the victim, which made her a bastion of hope for the entire Rebel Alliance.
The death of truth is the ultimate victory of evil.
Her positive reputation may have played a role in her disagreements with Saw Gerrera, as she hoped to take the moral high ground at every turn, while Gerrera wielded his enemies' tools to defeat them. Mothma wanted the rebellion to be undisputed as a force for good. Mon was an expert of optics and diplomacy. Speaking of expertise, let's move on to expert power. Cassian Andor is everyone's favorite expert. He is essentially Space MacGyver, able to make any object a tool towards his benefit, deploying his environment to his advantage.
Hey, it's not gonna rain forever. You might wanna bank some water.
There's a tarp over there.
Many of his skills were passed down from his adopted father, Clem.
People don't look down the way they should. They don't look down, they don't look past the rust.
Cassian pays attention to every situation he's in, noticing the nuances that others don't, which allows him to formulate escape or attack plans. He's probably the strongest spy of the rebellion, which promotes him to the rank of captain by the end of the series. The ability to sabotage and steal from the Empire is immensely powerful when fighting a war. Another immensely effective power is connection power. Wi-Fi is great, but that's not the network we need. I'm talking about the network that Luthen built. He created a robust intelligence network, brought together clusters of rebels with varying views, and developed a supply chain to fuel the Rebel Alliance.
The network's been built. It's up. It grows or it dies.
Luthen could get the people or the things that you need, which forced them to work with him, even if they didn't like him. Having this knowledge, as well as his connections, made him a force to be reckoned with. But it also made him very vulnerable if any of his contacts were caught. In turn, it made his contacts vulnerable if he were captured alive. Luthen Rail's network didn't just fall in his lap. He was effort posting on LinkedIn daily, working that 9-to-5 grind.
Really? Where's everyone going?
For real, he had a profound ability to connect with individuals, to inspire them to join the cause, to find something within themselves that motivated them.
Why would I go anywhere with you? Don't you want to fight these bastards for real?
We especially see his frustration with Cassian when Cassian lets the Gormans down.
You're thinking small, you're thinking like a thief.
I'm thinking like a soldier.
Think like a leader. Think about a planet like Gorman in rebellion.
The larger Luthen grows his network, the more powerful it becomes. It allows him to have eyes, ears, and hands everywhere.
I have friends everywhere.
Speaking of building networks, you all should be my friends everywhere and hit that subscribe button. If you're anti-fascist and make content, comment down below and I will subscribe right back. Who knows, maybe others will too. Last but certainly not least, let's discuss information power on the informal side. This is the ability to acquire knowledge regardless of or in spite of one's position. It may often be illegal or prohibited, because if you were in a position to receive information, that would be formal information power. Or if it was information that everyone had access to, knowing specific information would become expert power. Informal information is an incredible power to wield. Our Queen Clea shows how effective it is, as well as how challenging it can be. Clea constantly monitors listening devices and open frequency channels to pick up intelligence across the galaxy. She then uses that information to dispatch agents and prep them for missions. In her case, her power is clairvoyance. She knows what will happen before it does, using that intelligence to protect the rebellion or attack the Empire. Clea gained this power through practice, and by tapping directly into Imperial transmissions to send and receive messages.
They had the antenna. It's ingenious. They spliced it into a metro tower next door. They've been using Imperial broadcast power for who knows how long.
But this power comes with its own challenges. It's hard to maintain. It's taxing. It's constant.
I can't keep track anymore. All this lines we've laid, all this information, the radios, the frequencies, the messages flying around. We're drowning. You keep pretending it's all under control.
Are you done? I've a constant blur of plates spinning and knives on the floor and needy, panicked faces at the window, of which you are but one of many.
Without Clea at the listening booth, Luthen wouldn't be able to establish and maintain his connections. It takes two for this operation center to work. Luthen is the mouthpiece, Clea is the ears, albeit she definitely has her own voice.
Do as I say and everything will be fine. Do as I say.
At this point, you're probably saying, great, those are the types of power, but which one should I use? Good question, and truthfully, the answer depends on your situation and your goals. But let's start with this. Formal power in a fascist regime feasts on itself. It is ultimately self-defeating. Legitimate rank does not matter to those with more power than you. Your successes are easily washed away by others taking credit for your effort.
Stand here amidst my achievement, not yours!
Complying with coercive power will still land you in a cell or, historically, a camp. And even a member who plays by the rules at the behest of tyranny finds relief at the end of a barrel. True power within a fascist government is only achieved by resisting it. You are only irreplaceable in your role until you aren't which is why every opportunity must be taken to resist. Time is never on your side when fighting against the forces of evil. Now, if you're in a moral organization, legitimate power is effective for exercising power, but reward power will create more positive relationships than coercive power. Coercive power is important for deterring illegal and immoral activity, but promoting good behavior should rely more on reward power. However, if you want to be truly powerful and effective, you should seek out informal powers. They are impossible to fake and can't be ripped away by an organization like the Empire or the government. If the Empire kills a leader with massive referent power, they become a martyr. Some may argue, what about Order 66? Why didn't the galaxy revolt? Short answer, the Jedi weren't widely liked. They were part of the legitimate power structure for 1,000 years. Moving right along, an expert power wielder can carry that expertise into all situations, like Andor on Narkina 5. A person with true connection power will always have people loyal to them, willing to help.
But it's insulting to hear him run down by people who have given a fraction of his sacrifice to this rebellion.
Enough!
And lastly, Clea still had her information power when she had to flee Luthen's shop. She broadcasted a pulse signal leading to her rescue, which tipped off the rebellion to the Death Star. Which power is the strongest? Again, this depends. The Rebel Alliance formed a legitimate hierarchy within itself, which is necessary for military operations. Cassian went on an unapproved mission, which a commanding officer scolded him for. Cassian threatened to leave Yavin and the rebellion behind if he couldn't maintain his freedom. The commanding officer knew how valuable Andor's expertise was, so he left it alone.
Those who enjoy the security of Yavin must proclaim their loyalties.
Don't push too hard. You know where I stand. The day I need permission to come and go, I'm gone.
That day is near.
In this case, expertise power defeated legitimate power. However, Vel visits Luthen's shop where she runs into Clea. Vel brags about her success in the Aldhani heist, flexing her expert power. But Clea clapped back, clearly illustrating the power of her information, as well as its direct impact on Vel.
I gave him Aldhani. What have you done lately?
I'll make sure he knows where it came from.
Luthen burned one of his connections to gain back Mon Mothma's trust, and did everything he could to protect her. Due to her referent power, Luthen saw her as the rightful leader of the rebellion, a central figure to return the Republic. And for all of Deidre's information power and ability to solve cases, Krennic's coercion and legitimate power was stronger, placing her in a cell for the rest of her days. It's ironic. The Empire used reward power to gain legitimacy, with the offer being safety and security. As we know, this was a lie, and it wasn't long before the Empire switched from reward to coercion, using the threat of death and destruction to keep everyone in line. Luthen used reward power to get Cassian to join the Aldhani mission, but it was Luthen and Nimic's connection power that planted the seeds of rebellion for Andor to later commit.
Kill me. Or take me in.
If you want to defeat an empire, you need every type of power. Not everyone can be revered, or be an expert, or a master of information. But you can find and connect people that have those powers. The power of connection wins wars. Luthen Rael built the Rebel Alliance that took down the Empire. That's power. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know if you enjoyed the video by commenting or hyping. You have friends everywhere, and remember, the world needs you.
Last night logged into your account.